Hello children, let me welcome you back to yet another session in Geography for Standard 6th. My name is Shraddha Teacher and we are doing this lesson here through the Virtual Training Center of the Brihan Mumbai Mahanagar Palika. Now children, this is the second part of the lesson that we started last time. So remember, we were doing the lesson The Earth and the Graticule last time. And we studied a lot of important things about the Earth and about the Graticule. We did the introduction of this lesson last time and we talked about the location of a place on the Earth, and we saw that the use of direction alone does not help us to accurately describe the location of a place. So all these points, children, we talked about in the lesson last week. We also saw that there are certain lines on the surface of this earth, that is, they are imaginary lines. I told you when I was teaching you that part of the lesson. These lines, if you actually go and search for them physically, you might not be able to find them. They are imaginary lines on the surface of the earth, and some of these lines we call them as the latitudes, some of these lines we call them as the longitudes, and together the entire network that they make, we call it as the graticule. Okay, so now in today's lesson we are going to talk in detail about these latitudes and the longitudes. Okay, so come on, are you ready for a very interesting lesson in geography where we will get a lot of knowledge about these particular lines on the surface of the earth? So let us start by looking at what latitudes are. So now, like I told you last time, we have certain lines which we can call as sleeping lines and certain lines which we can call as standing lines. Okay, so now let us look at these sleeping lines on the surface of the earth first. So these sleeping lines on the surface of the earth, or the horizontal lines on the surface of the earth, are called as the latitudes. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the important latitudes on the surface of the earth. In that way, we have 0 degree in the center, 90 above and 90 below. Okay, so we have 180 horizontal lines on the earth. So we have 180 latitudes on the surface of the earth. So we are not going to look at all of them here now. We will look at some of the important latitudes on the surface of the earth. So come on, let us start and let us see which are the important ones on the surface of the earth. So we have the equator, the most important latitude. We call it as the equator. So let us see where the equator is. See this line right in the middle of the globe is the equator, and it is situated at 0 degrees. Now in the previous lesson we also talked about how we find out these degrees, okay, by angular distance. Isn't it? We talked about how we calculate the measurement of a particular latitude and how we call it as, okay, this latitude is this degree latitude, this latitude is that degree latitude. How do we do it? We do it by calculating the angular distance. So this we had talked about in the last lesson. Alright, so measuring the angular distance, the equator is at 0 degree. It doesn't form an angle with any other line. Okay, then we have the Tropic of Cancer. This line is called as the Tropic of Cancer, and it is 23.5 degrees north. The Tropic of Cancer. Okay, then we have the Arctic Circle. See, this is the Tropic of Cancer for you. Then we have the Tropic of Capricorn, which is in the south. Let us see how the Tropic of Capricorn is moving here. Okay, that is the Tropic of Capricorn for you. And what is the measurement? See what the measurement is. Try and read it. Yes, it is 23.5 degrees south, isn't it? I will tell you what the meaning of this north and the south is very soon. Okay, so now you just observe it. We will learn more things about this later. Let us look at the next important latitude. So we have the Arctic Circle. Okay, in the north we have the Arctic Circle. And what is the measurement there? It is 66.5 degree north, and this is the line of the Arctic Circle, or the latitude at the Arctic Circle. Alright, and then we have the Antarctic Circle in the southern hemisphere. Okay, towards the you can say downside, below the equator. See, this is the line of the Antarctic Circle. Alright, and then we have the North Pole. An Antarctic Circle is at 66.5 degrees south. Then we have the North Pole here and the South Pole in the south. So children, these are the different, you can say, lines or the different important latitudes on the center of the earth. So I will give you around 5 seconds. You can have one look at which are the important latitudes on this earth, that is the more important latitudes on the surface of the earth. Okay children, now let us see some more information about these latitudes. So these latitudes children, they look like ellipses. So now what are ellipses? So if you look at this, you will see that they don't look like circles, they look like ellipses. So what are ellipses? See, this is an example of an ellipse. So an ellipse is, of course, it is in the form of a circle, but it is a elongated circle. It is like someone has pulled a circle from both the corners and made it a long circle. Okay, so when you look at the latitudes this way, you will feel that these are all ellipses. But actually, these latitudes are circles. They are not ellipses. They are all actually circles. Okay. Now see, this is the North Pole, and see, look at this figure now. So this is as if you are flying above the North Pole. You are in the air, and the Earth is below you, and you are looking at the Earth from above the North Pole. Okay. So this is how the North Pole will look to you. Like a small dot where all the longitudes come and meet. Okay, so this is the North Pole, and then here you have the, you can say, 40-degree latitude. Okay, this is just an example to show you that these latitudes are actually circles. See, these latitudes are actually circles. Okay, they are not ellipses like they look like when you look at them from the front. When you look at them from the top, you will realize that all these latitudes are actually in the form of circles. Okay, so this is one more, you can say, important information about latitudes for you. So latitudes are actually circles on the surface of the earth. Now let's come to one more very important point about these latitudes. So look at these latitudes here. So the latitudes, they never meet each other. Look at them. Do they meet each other? The circles just go round, 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 round. Okay? None of the circles meet each other. That means that these circles are parallel to each other. All the circles of the latitude are parallel to each other. What is the meaning of parallel? See, this is an example of two parallel lines. So parallel lines means a set of lines which will never meet each other. They will never meet each other means the distance between them is equal all over. Okay, that is why we say that they are parallel to each other. They will never meet each other. Alright, and these latitudes will also never meet each other, and they are parallel. So that is why they are called as the parallel of latitudes. We call them as parallels of latitudes. Okay, see, now we also talked about the angular distance. Remember, even in this lesson I told you about the angular distance. Now suppose you want to talk about angular distance of this particular place. Alright, how will you find out the angular distance? You will draw a line from here right up to the center of the earth, which is already there. Can you see the red line there? And then you have this line, which is the line of the equator, and then you try and find out the angle here. It is 50 degrees. So this particular latitude, you will name it as the 50 degrees north latitude. So this we learnt last time, how you calculate the angular distance. Alright, now based on that, we have many different latitudes on the earth based on this angular distance with the center of the earth and the equator. Okay, so see here, you have the 10-degree latitude, the small yellow dot which has come up on the screen. Look at it carefully. So you have the 10-degree latitude, you have the 20-degree latitude, you have the 30-degree latitude, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is how latitudes are calculated on the surface of the earth. Just like we have these latitudes above the equator, we have so many latitudes below the equator as well. Now let us look at the most important latitude once again and find out some more points about this particular latitude. So this is the equator, the most important latitude on the surface of the earth. Like I told you just now, let us see some more things about the equator. Why is it called as the most important latitude? See here, this is the line of the equator, and you must have seen sometimes how your mummy chops an onion or chops a lemon into two equal parts. In the same way, this equator divides the earth into two equal parts. So the part which is above the equator is called as the northern hemisphere, and the part which is below the equator is called as the southern hemisphere. Okay, apart from that, we have the north pole in the north and the south pole in the south. So this is one important, you can say, function of the equator. It separates the earth into two parts, that is the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Now look at this now. The latitudes in the northern hemisphere are called as the north latitudes. I told you in this particular figure that just like we have latitudes in the north here, see 0 degree, 20 degree, 30 degree, we have latitudes in the south also. So let us differentiate between them now and try and find out what they are called. So the latitudes in the northern hemisphere are called as the north latitudes. For example, you have 30-degree north latitude, 60-degree north latitude, etc. Okay. Then the latitudes which are in the southern hemisphere, that is below the equator, they are called as the south latitudes. That is 30 degrees south latitude, 30 degree, 60 degrees south latitude, etc. Okay. Now let us look at these places. This is a particular latitude. Okay, we will not name which latitude it is. It is one particular latitude, and look at the various places on this latitude. See here, this is one place, this is the second place, this is the third place, and this is the fourth place, and this is somewhere in the USA. This is in Africa, this place. This is a place in the Himalayas, and this is a spot in the Pacific Ocean. So you will see that when a latitude passes through on the surface of the earth, the various places which are at the same latitude, they are said to be situated on the same latitude. Okay, when you describe them, you will say that all these places are on, for example, 40-degree latitude. Okay, but the temperature conditions, the surroundings, etc. of these four places can be totally different. Okay, see one more example. We pick up the 30-degree north latitude here, and let us see which are the different places. So see here, there are so many different places here. We have a place in California, we have a place in Florida. So these are all places in North America. See here, there is a place in Israel which is on the 30-degree north latitude. Then this is a familiar place, that is our country India. So there is this place Punjab. Punjab is roughly around 31 degrees, okay, north. So Punjab is there on the northern latitude, 30-degree north latitude. And we have a place in China also on the 30-degree north latitude. Alright, so there can be different places on the surface of the earth on the same latitude, having the same latitude reading. Then how do you decide where they are? That we will decide when we look at the longitudes, isn't it? So now we are talking about the latitudes alone. So hope children, the idea of latitudes is clear to you. We talked about what latitudes are. Now let us quickly look at what are longitudes. So what are longitudes? Let us see now. So these are the standing lines on the surface of the earth, the longitudes. Unlike the latitudes, which were circles, the longitudes are semicircles, half circles, okay? And which is the most important longitude? It is the prime meridian, or the longitude at 180 degrees. See here, 180-degree meridian. This longitude, it divides the earth into two hemispheres again, but it is not the north and the south. It is the eastern hemisphere and the western hemisphere. Okay, so this is how the longitude divides the earth into two parts. And unlike the latitudes, these meridians, they are not at all parallel to each other, children. That is, they are not having the same distance amongst them. For example, see here, this much is the distance between two longitudes, but as you go higher, the distance goes on reducing. That is why we say that meridians, they are not parallel. Okay, see, and all the meridians, all the longitudes, they go and meet at the poles. Okay, now at the longitudes, if you see the distance between the various latitudes, they are the same because they are parallels, isn't it? So see here, the distance between any two latitudes is supposed to be 111 kilometers. See here, 111 kilometers. Okay, I cannot show you the tiny lines of latitude, so this is an example. Okay, 111 kilometers. So just suppose that these are two lines of latitude, but I told you that the longitude, the distance goes on decreasing, but at the equator, the distance between two longitudes is also 111 kilometers. Okay, children? So this was about the latitudes and longitudes. Together, we call them as the Graticule. Okay, so this was what was important, and this was to be studied in this particular lesson. Now how we will use a graticule, we will learn it in the next lesson. Let's use the graticule. Okay, so this was a lesson about the earth and the graticule. We gathered a lot of information about the latitudes and longitudes. Now next time we will see how we are going to use this particular graticule. Okay, till then, goodbye and thank you so much.